Since the founding of Suzerain High, it's been the ultimate gathering place for delinquent boys. With too many gangs fighting for turf, no one's been able to unite the school in nearly a decade. Right now, the strongest crew in the sophomore year is the trio Hiromi, Makoto, and Toshiki, especially the braided one, who's basically a walking threat with shampoo sponsorship potential. In year 11, Bando is top dog. He's a transfer student and one of the core members of the Iron Armor gang. As for the seniors in year 12, each class has its own boss. Tam Mao rules Class A, the Mikami twins run B, Takashi controls C, Sun holds D, and Chuta leads E. Among them, Tam Mao is the one most likely to rule all of Suzerain. The guy's practically one crown short of being king. During the opening ceremony, a brave new student took the mic and declared he'd work hard in school until he got smacked down by a thug who announced he was going to be the king of Suzerain. This didn't sit well with Hiromi's trio, and before anyone could say peaceful transfer of power, fists were flying. The teachers were so terrified they almost needed adult diapers, and one even called the new students surprisingly full of life. Meanwhile, outside the school, a group of 6 gangsters showed up. Their leader, Ken, claimed his little bro had just received a free full-body massage from Tam Mao and he was here to return the favor. The students, who had been exchanging punches like Valentine's cards, suddenly stopped and obediently watched from the balconies. Nobody wanted beef with real gangsters. When no one responded, Ken casually went off to buy drinks, while his crew yelled for Tam Mao to come out. That's when a cocky student strutted right through the crowd. "What, you looking down on us?" The gang mistook him for Tam Mao and jumped him. Bad idea. In less than a minute, he'd beaten them all into the pavement. One punch sent a guy flying over 5 meters, basically Olympic javelin throw, but with people. The onlookers were stunned. Who is this guy? Turns out, his name's Takia, the newest student in Class 12E. He then went up to the rooftop and spray painted over Tam Mao's name on the wall, erasing his claim to be Suzerain's top dog. Translation: I'm your new king, punks. Tam Mao, hearing the commotion, sped back on his bike straight from the hospital, even though he doesn't know how to ride one. He crashed into a car, shattered its windshield, flipped a police car, and even caused a Qin Dynasty war chariot to lose its brakes. His emergency brake? His own feet. When he reached the rooftop, he asked Takia, "Who are you?" Takia replied coolly, "I'm the one who knocked out those thugs." Just then, the flipped-over cop showed up and dragged Tam Mao back to the station. The next morning, Tam Mao returned and started a gambling ring with his crew. While they were hyped about earning pocket money, Takia barged in, flipped the table, and dropped off a challenge letter. He wanted a one-on-one with Suzerain's strongest. Right before punches could fly again, Tam Mao's buddy Tokyo intervened. Turns out, Takia was his old middle school friend. At that moment, the Mikami twins from Class 12B barged in, also wanting to challenge Tam Mao. Great, why not invite the whole school while we're at it? Seizing the chance, Tokyo told Takia, if you want a shot at Tam Mao, beat a guy named Jinda first. So Takia got sent off. Meanwhile, Tam Mao KO'd the Mikami twins with 1 punch each, then gave them free chiropractic adjustments for their troubles. With no better options, they joined his crew. Takia began asking around about Jinda, only to find he was a top-tier fighter who didn't care about school politics. Word was, Jinda once took down 100 punks by himself. When Takia finally met him, he could feel the sheer pressure, like facing the final boss with no save point. Then Ken, the gangster boss, returned for round 2 only to get punched so hard his profile pic got rearranged. After trading blows, the two ended up grabbing drinks together. Classic manly bonding, throw fists, then throw back shots. Ken admitted he used to go to Suzerain, and said brute strength alone wouldn't win the school. To be the real boss, you need charisma, influence, and strategy. If you're just throwing punches, don't expect people to follow you. Takia, realizing he lacked all of the above, bowed and asked to be taught. Ken's first test? Beat Chuta, the boss of Class 12E, and learn how to win hearts, not just fights. Takia scribbled everything down in a notebook like a straight-A delinquent. Next day, he marched into class, pulled out the notebook, and read aloud, "Who's the strongest in here? Step forward." Chuta did, and Takia promptly kicked him out the window. And just like that, he became the class boss. Too bad he forgot what to say next. He flipped to his notes again and declared, "From now on, everyone in this class answers to me." And just like that, he claimed 12, but with only 20 students, ruling all of Suzerain was still a long road ahead. With Chutta now and his crew, Takia began mapping out the school's power structure. The sophomores and juniors weren't a big threat. If he could conquer all of Year 12, Suzerain would be his. But first, he'd have to face Tam Mao, the self-proclaimed king of beasts, who commands 5 top-tier generals. The first one is their strategist, Wayakaki. The second is a judo master. The third is Tokyo, Tam Mao's best friend. And the fourth and fifth are twin brothers whom Tam Mao just recruited yesterday. This team's starting lineup feels like a turn-based RPG party. So now, if they want to go up against Tam Mao, they'll need to win over the remaining 2 class leaders, Takashi from Class C and Shin from Class D. Takashi's a hopeless flirt but still painfully single, so they decide to exploit that fatal weakness. Ken boldly heads out to flirt with girls, but his creepy face alone sends them running for their lives. Even if he begged on his knees, no one would give him a second look. He's got the confidence of a K-drama lead, but the face of a police sketch. So the main character steps in, and boom, he scores a date with Ruka instantly. Once Takashi hears there's a girl involved, he shows up in a flashy suit trying to look like some rich prince. But his profile picture looks more like a discount comic sidekick. Ruka's friends are all stunners too, and Takashi gets so excited he starts sweating buckets, so much that the girls panic and bolt. This guy didn't just lose his cool, he drowned in it. Ken rolls out a hero rescue plan. Chutta plays the sleazy creep so Takashi can swoop in and play the hero. But Ruka ends up stabbing Chutta, and Ken and Takashi accidentally blurt out the whole scheme. Smooth operators. If the mission was to get rejected and arrested, Ruka storms off with her friends, leaving the main character helpless, nearly in tears. Later that night, Ken takes Takashi to a massage parlor. Hearing about Takashi's sensitive issue, the guy gets so excited he, well, finishes before anyone even touches him, faster than light. Someone call Guinness. With no pants left, the main guy sneaks into a tailor shop to steal some pajama bottoms for him. Even though he didn't get the girl, Takashi's touched by Takia's kindness and decides to join his team and conquer Suzerain together. The next day, Takashi convinces Shin Rhea from Class D to meet Takia. But Shin has other plans. He sets up a 30-man ambush. Takia isn't fazed. He kicks the first guy down and starts tearing through the crowd. Anyone who dares rush him gets a free serving of pain. School fight? More like one-man action film. He takes a few hits himself, but he keeps getting back up, and Shin's attitude slowly changes from mockery to full-blown admiration. Though he and Tam Mao have always been rivals, Shin's never managed to defeat him. Maybe teaming up with Takia is the only way. After the brawl, Takia collapses. Shin personally takes him home and agrees to join his squad. While recovering, Takia and Ken are strolling when they spot Ruka being harassed by street thugs. Plot twist: girls in this show only appear to get kidnapped. Ken, loyal to the bone, tells them to run ahead while he holds the line. But with his terrible fighting skills, he gets pummeled like a training dummy. Despite just transferring in, Takia's already united classes C, D, and E from Year 12. He names the new squad GPS, a symbol of total domination. Let's hope it stands for Go Punch Something. They're still not as strong as Tam Mao's crew, but they're officially the second biggest gang now. But their cocky rise annoys Tam Mao's strategist, who secretly assembles 50 men to ambush Shin, beats him to a pulp, and hangs him upside down at the school gate. It's less a warning and more a human billboard. If furious, Takia wants revenge, but Takashi tells him to cool off. If Takia gets taken down, GPS is finished. Tam Mao's strategist isn't done yet. He manipulates Bando, a leader from Year 11, into kidnapping Ruka, promising to help him take over the fractured Ice Armor gang. Forget love letters. Hostage-taking is apparently the new student council diplomacy. Hearing Ruka's in danger, Takia, Takashi, Chutta, and Shin charge in. There's no talking. Just fists. Takia smashes anyone who comes near. Takashi turns into Discount Hulk, swinging a steel bar like a dog whacking broom. Shin's iron legs knock out opponents like bowling pins. Chutta, the weakest, sticks to 1v1s only. Chutta's the guy you leave at spawn to protect the base. After knocking out around 100 guys, Takia realizes something: none of them are wearing ice armor insignias. It's a trap. Another dirty trick from Tam Mao's side, but the damage is done. Bando demands Takashi cut off an ear as payment. Takia steps up: you can take mine, but don't touch my brother. He raises the knife, ready to do it, but Bando stops him. Impressed by his loyalty, Bando lets them go. Takia then confronts Tam Mao. When Tam Mao hears that his strategist used a girl as a hostage, he snaps and punishes him in front of everyone. Even villains have limits. Kidnapping? Too low, bro. Ruka is finally released. But things have escalated beyond repair and now, it's War, GPS versus Tam Mao's crew. They agreed to a showdown at 5 p.m. the next day. Coincidentally, that's also when Tokyo, Tam Mao's closest friend, is undergoing brain surgery. Meanwhile, Ken's in trouble. On this turf, two major underworld gangs are at odds. Ken's boss orders him to kill Takeya, who's the son of the rival gang leader. Plot twist number 78, the main guy's dad is the final boss. Out of options, Ken lures Takeya to the docks and lands a solid punch, pretending to kill him. Then he begs Takeya to fulfill his dream of becoming king of Suzerain, but Ken failed his mission and broke the sacred rules of the underworld. So his boss calls him to the dock, hands him a coat, shoots him twice, and pushes him into the river. Ken sinks fast. Looks like he's done for, but suddenly, he wakes up, swims to the surface, and realizes the coat he got was bulletproof, the underworld's version of "you're fired, but take care, kid." His boss wasn't killing him, he was setting him free. The long-awaited battle day had finally arrived, with rain pouring down like the heavens themselves were in on the drama. The main guy, oozing fighting spirit, led the GPS crew straight toward their enemy. Tam Mao, Chada, Takashi, and even Shin had all shown up. Clearly, today was going to be brutal. On Tam Mao's side, four generals stood ready for war. Only Tokyo was absent, since he was undergoing brain surgery, though judging by his past actions, some folks were already questioning if there was anything left to operate on. From above, the M-Block trio observed the chaos below. GPS had around 70 members, while Tam Mao's forces had over 100. It was David versus a steroid-infused Goliath. With a fierce battle cry, GPS launched the first strike. Tam Mao's squad charged in to meet them, with Takeya leading the way. Tam Mao gently lowered his beloved white umbrella, because even the King of Beasts knew it was time to brawl. The two sides clashed like there was a prize for the most dramatic takedown. After 30 minutes of pure chaos, Tam Mao's side started to take control thanks to their superior numbers. Confident in victory, Tam Mao even sat down to enjoy the banquet of war. But just then, bam! Bando from Block 11 stormed in with his armored crew to back up GPS. Suddenly, it was anyone's game. Tam Mao, instead of panicking, laughed like a maniac. "Fine, I'll catch all you fish in one net," he roared. The once one-sided war had turned into a perfectly balanced mess. 10 more minutes passed, and most of the underlings were now part of the pavement. Time for the big bosses to step up. Takashi and Chada teamed up against the Mikami twins. Takashi slammed one to the ground with a solid grip, while poor Chada mostly served as a human punching bag. On the other side, Shin went after the strategist who once humiliated him by hanging him up in front of the school gates. After trading a few blows, Shin landed a heavenly punch straight to the guy's jaw. Justice served, dentist not included. Meanwhile, Bando clashed with the master of dirty brawls. These two didn't waste time, every hit aimed straight at the skull. Fast, brutal, and no refunds. After 15 more minutes, every general had hit the dirt. Only Takeya and Tam Mao remained standing. The final showdown had arrived. The sky turned blood red, as if the weather itself sensed the carnage. The two charged in. Takeya landed a kick on Tam Mao, but Tam Mao caught his leg and countered with a clean hit to the face, following up with a flurry of strikes. Yet Takeya, true to form, refused to go down. They kept tearing into each other from afternoon until nightfall, running purely on fumes. Tam Mao landed a punch, but Takeya returned fire with a 3-hit combo. When Tam Mao turned to recover, Takeya delivered a clean shot straight to his face right on the school photo spot. Tam Mao collapsed. The battle was over. Takeya had won. Just then, Tam Mao got a call from the hospital. Tokyo's surgery was a success. Sure, he lost the fight, but at least his bro still had a brain to use. Half a month later, everyone's wounds had healed. Only one guy left for Takeya to beat, Jinda, the legendary undefeated champ. Takeya went for the first hit but got tossed around like laundry in a spin cycle. Still, Takeya was known as the king of endurance. Facing a monster only made him more excited. Suzerain High was basically a zoo of delinquents. Now that GPS, led by Takeya, had crushed Tam Mao's crew, Takeya officially became Suzerain's top dog. One day, while Tam Mao was casually playing cards, a student came stumbling in, being chased by the bald squad. Tam Mao looked over and was shocked. It was Noboru, Suzerain's former top boss. Turns out 2 years ago, Noboru led Suzerain into a full-blown war with Housen High. Back then, Tam Mao was just a fresh-faced 10th grader. Everyone thought it'd be an easy win, but Housen clobbered them. In desperation, Noboru stabbed their boss, sending him straight to the ER and himself straight to jail. After that, both schools agreed on a truce, no more revenge fights. Now that Noboru was out of prison, he was being hunted down by Housen's Bald division. Tam Mao, ever the loyal bro, decided to step in. One of Housen's goons stepped up to challenge him, but just then Takia and his crew passed by and asked what was going on. The Housen kids had no idea who Takia was and ran their mouths a bit too freely. Bad move. Takia kindly reminded them who he was with his fists. Unfortunately, that punch officially shredded the peace treaty between the two schools. Looks like another bloodbath was brewing. Takia didn't seem too bothered, even though he'd just kicked off a war. Tam Mao warned him, being Suzuran's boss wasn't exactly a walk in the park. As for Noboru, now stripped of pride and nearly stripped of life, he thanked Tam Mao and disappeared to save his own skin. The Housen Bald division was led by the ruthless Taiga and his 4 generals: Ryo, who looked suspiciously glamorous, the toothy guy with gold grills, a runny-nosed bruiser, and finally Sigoku, who might have turned Super Saiyan 2 in another life. Among them, Ryo was the most dangerous anyone he touched. Ended up in the ER. Once Taiga learned that the truce had been broken, he started plotting full-on revenge. Meanwhile, Suzuran's 2 main forces stood tall, especially GPS, led by none other than Takia. Under his command were 5 generals: Takashi, Jun, Chada, and the twin brothers Mikami. The second most powerful force was the Tam Mao gang, led by 3 generals: Tokyo, the strategist, and the martial arts expert duo. But the 2 factions were like cats and dogs, never saw eye to eye. Tokyo tried to convince Takia and Tam Mao to join forces against Housen High School, but that went nowhere. The 2 bosses stayed calm like monks in meditation, while their underlings ran around like headless chickens. Takia tirelessly roamed everywhere recruiting members for his GPS gang. He had his eyes on the power trio of Class M, Hiromi, Makoto, and Toshiaki, but they didn't give a single hoot. It was like trying to sell gym memberships to ghosts. Then Housen's revenge plan kicked off. The judo guy with braided hair got ambushed on the soccer field. He took down a bunch of bald heads, but he was no match for Ryo. In just a few moves, the judo master was down. And to add insult to injury, Ryo went full knee therapy on his face repeatedly. That same night, Tam Mao's strategist also got caught in a trap. Blonde Goku and his gang ambushed him in an elevator, because apparently, elevators are now fight clubs. Meanwhile, Takashi, Chada, and the Mikami twins were fooling around when they ran into a group of hairy-headed punks. Outnumbered, they got beaten into next week. Only Takashi stayed standing until the big boss Taiga stepped in and knocked him out cold with a single punch. When Takia found out, he was furious. There's no way he'd let these cue ball heads do as they pleased. Soon challenged Tam Mao to a one-on-one duel. If he won, the 2 groups would unite to fight Taiga. But Tam Mao, known as the King of Beasts, countered every one of Sun's attacks with ease, and even made him spit syrup with one devastating hit. Sun managed to land a single blow, and that was it. The next moment, he was flying 10 meters from a full-powered Fury Dragon kick. Back at Suzuran, Takia realized the only way to unite the students was to defeat Jinda, the strongest guy in school. The dude stood at a casual 1.9 meters, muscles stacked like bricks, like Lubu reborn in a high school uniform. Takia had challenged Jinda over 10 times and never won. This time was no different. Another day, another beating. But Takia's stubborn die but never bow attitude earned him respect even from Tam Mao. Exhausted, Takia passed out. When he woke up, it was midnight. Suzuran's gym was on fire. Turned out it was arson. Thanks to the backstabbing Gata, Takashi, Tokyo, and Chada wanted immediate revenge. But Takia was eerily calm, as if someone poured iced tea in his veins. He told everyone, "Don't let anger cloud your judgment. That old gym was falling apart anyway. Now we can build something better." Tokyo didn't take that lightly. He punched his best friend, the same one he once bathed naked in the rain with. But Takia didn't fight back. Deep down, he knew charging off now would only drag his brothers into the slaughterhouse. The next day, Takia and 4 others went straight to Housen to declare war. That's when he realized he'd met Taiga before. The guy had once lit him a cigarette. In return, Takia lit one for him, a poetic moment of bromance amid chaos. They agreed to battle the next day at Housen High. Takia returned to Suzuran, got on the PA system, and called for students to join his army, hoping to recruit some from the 10th and 11th grades. Only 40 showed up. Tam Mao's crew? Nowhere to be seen. Then Hiromi, Makoto, and Aki showed up like they meant business, only to say they weren't gonna be cannon fodder, then walked off like nothing happened. Housen's forces numbered in the hundreds. There was no way they'd win. Takashi and the others were ready to go all out, but Takeya told them to stand down. He disbanded GPS on the spot, told everyone to go home. Then he walked away in silence, leaving them all frozen like statues. Only Sunan understood, Takeya wasn't giving up. He just didn't want his friends dying for nothing. No doubt, he'd fight them alone. Tam Mao caught wind of this. Impressed by Takeya's courage, he decided to help, finally putting some respect on the name. The next morning, Takeya marched alone to the gates of Hausen High. On the other side stood Taiga and his shiny, bald-headed army. Takeya yelled, "You're just cockroaches who only know how to sneak attack. Bring it on, I'll take you all myself." And with that, he charged like a bullet. Taiga screamed, "Kill him," and the horde swarmed, but they didn't expect Takeya to throw hands like a street brawler in a Bruce Lee dream. Every punch knocked someone straight to the dentist. He was like a wild beast dancing with a pack of wolves, a brutal ballet. Still, there were too many of them. Even Takeya couldn't fight an army solo. Just as things got grim, reinforcements from Suzerain arrived. On one side was GPS. On the other, Tam Mao's gang. They joined forces to beat the sneaky biters back into the shadows. Tam Mao smirked and handed command to Takeya. The main man turned to face the enemy, eyes blazing, and both sides looked like they were suffering from chronic constipation, trying to force out all their grudges. Taiga offered a final deal. If Takeya wanted a duel, he had to fight him on the rooftop. Walking into Hausen territory was basically suicide, but at this point, fear was no longer in the equation. Takeya agreed without hesitation, because if you're gonna go down, might as well do it like a legend. And just like that, both sides clashed in a flurry of fists. Takeya might not be a fan of schoolyard brawls, but even he had to admit this was one hell of a showdown. The bald-headed gang swarmed Takeya, eager to score some glory, only to get clobbered by Tokyo with surgical precision. The two then tag-teamed and handed out beatdowns like it was a buy-one-get-one-free sale. Meanwhile, the strategist was surrounded until Sun swooped in like a reluctant superhero. The two frenemies finally fought side by side. Takashi shouted, "Hey, all you cue balls, come at me." Even Chada, usually the weakest of the bunch, was throwing hands like he had protein shakes for breakfast. After around 20 minutes, the chrome domes on the schoolyard floor were practically begging for mercy. Seeing this, Tam Mao ordered his crew to get Takeya to the rooftop at all costs. Suzerain's army stormed the school, but Hausen's students weren't just going to roll over. They had the home turf advantage and numbers on their side. Things quickly turned against Suzerain. While all hell broke loose, the former boss Noboru tracked down Ken, an old-school gangster now lying low. Ken told him to quit chasing shadows and start over, but Noboru wanted to join the Yakuza and earn some stripes. To prove himself, he tried to assassinate Hato, the rival boss, who, inconveniently, also happened to be Takeya's dad. Noboru shot him in a back alley, but the old man survived and was rushed to the hospital. As if that wasn't enough drama, Noboru burst in again to finish the job, only to get stopped by Ken. Hato, despite everything, told his men to let them go. Even gangsters need therapy. Apparently, back in the chaos, Suzerain's forces were still stuck on the first floor. Takeya and Tam Mao had to use classic diversion tactics to push upward. But the third general of Hausen appeared to block their path. The Mikami twins yelled at Takeya to go ahead. They'd stall the enemy. Takashi charged into a classroom and ran into Taiga mid-snack. Taiga calmly told his underlings to scram. He'd personally deal with Takashi. Clearly still salty from being ambushed last time, he was out for revenge. Takashi got in a solid punch, but Taiga was in a different league. Still, Takashi kept getting back up, even bloodied and bruised, refusing to fall until he eventually collapsed at Taiga's feet. Elsewhere, students from both schools were greeting each other with fists of friendship. Chada, pumped from the thrill, charged in solo, only to get wrecked. Strategist told Tam Mao and X to protect Takeya while he handled this. On the rooftop stairs, Blondie Son Goku arrived, eager for revenge over the elevator ambush. The strategist didn't hesitate. They threw down immediately. On the third floor, Tokyo was holding off dozens despite having just had brain surgery. Unsurprisingly, he was knocked out. But then, like a shonen protagonist, his fighting spirit reignited. He stood up and beat the snot out of the Ball Brigade. Tam Mao and Son escorted Takeya up to the fourth floor, only to find it guarded by Goldtooth. Sun stayed behind to stall him. For a guy who looked tough, Goldtooth got folded faster than a cheap lawn chair. Takia and Tam Mao were just about to reach the rooftop when Rio showed up. Tam Mao told Takia to go on while he faced off against the flamboyant Psycho. Rio's dream was to defeat the King of Beasts. He unleashed a barrage of strikes that sent Tam Mao flying down the stairs. Laughing, Rio mocked him as a helpless kitten. But Tam Mao had been playing possum. Smirking, he stood up and started dishing out pain like a five-star chef. No matter what Rio tried, nothing worked. Tam Mao caught his arm and whispered, "Next time you see me, watch your mouth." Then he landed a brain-rattling punch followed by his signature dragon kick, knocking Rio out cold. And now on the rooftop, Takia faced Taiga, who was already waiting. No trash talk, Takia rushed in and landed a punch that could have ended a phone call. But Taiga recovered fast, and the two exchanged brutal blows, their blood and sweat soaking through their clothes just as Takia landed a crushing uppercut that floored Taiga. The sneaky traitor got rushed in with a knife. Lucky for Takia, the younger brother of Heian's former boss arrived in time and flattened Gata's face. Taiga, disgusted by the cowardice, punched Gata across the rooftop and resumed his duel with Takia. Tam Mao arrived just in time to witness the final round. Both Takia and Taiga were down to their last gasps, slugging it out to see who could take the most punishment. In the end, Takia, crowned the king of endurance, came out on top. But Tam Mao helped him up, while the former boss's little brother looked down at Taiga, defeated and broken. "One day, I'll be king too, but I won't be weak like you," he declared. Suzerain's students returned victorious, battered, bruised, but grinning from ear to ear. At this point, the traitor Gata was hiding like a rat, too ashamed to face Takia. Seeing that, our main guy simply waved at him to come home. 2 weeks later, after healing up, they finally graduated high school. Yes, throwing punches by day, collecting diplomas by night. Suzerain's curriculum is intense. Everyone's graduation certificates were proudly posted on Suzerain's wall of fame. At the top were the King of GPS and 2 certificates. Takia's and Tam Mao's graduation was done, but the protagonist still had one unfinished business: defeating Jinda, the strongest fighter around. Everyone was eager to see how it would end. Tam Mao went all in, betting all his money and even the underwear he was wearing on Takia. Now that's friendship. When your wallet and your boxers are both on the line, and so, our hero charged into the fight, trading blows with Jinda. After several failed attempts, he finally dodged a move and landed a punch right into Jinda's gut. But Jinda didn't even flinch. They kept fighting, toe-to-toe, with no clear winner. Just then, a new student arrived at Suzerain, Kaburaji. Standing tall at 1.89 meters, he stood out like a skyscraper among the crowd. Forget textbooks, this guy needed a separate seat just for his legs. While asking for directions, he ran into Kenichi, another big name at Suzerain. Kenichi had heard rumors that this transfer student had taken down the 4 heavenly kings at his old school, solo. So he figured this kid might be a perfect recruit for his gang. What he didn't know was that the guy standing right in front of him was the very same legend. Talk about recruiting the boss without realizing it. Just then, a luxury car sped by, almost hitting them. Kaburaji, who had zero patience for reckless drivers, took off in pursuit. The blonde rich boy who stepped out of the car was Kagami, a 10th grader who somehow had less hair than a monk but still acted like a king. He stood right in front of Suzerain's gate, blocking everyone from entering, because apparently there was a turf war inside for the boss spot. Even Kagami himself wasn't allowed to pass. At Suzerain, you don't walk into school, you survive your way in. Kaburaji caught up and asked for an apology for nearly getting run over. Kagami couldn't care less. He told everyone to move aside and climbed over the gate. Seeing this little punk act all high and mighty, Kaburaji chased after him. Meanwhile, our main guy got jumped by some thugs and had his head slammed into the ground. He didn't even get a chance to retaliate. Kaburaji stepped in and knocked the guy's teeth into next week. One punch, and boom, goodbye dental plan. His sheer strength left everyone stunned. The title of Suzerain's boss was now a full-blown war between 2 factions. On the left was Takagi, ranked number 2, with a killer undercut. On the right was the toughest gang, led by Gora. Takagi wasted no time, he rushed in to strike first. 1 punch to the head, and he was out cold on the floor like it was nap time. Turns out bedtime stories aren't the only thing that puts you to sleep. Clearly, Gora wasn't someone to mess with. Kenichi then pulled Kaburaji aside and told him, "That guy you just sent flying? He's one of the top 5 fighters under Gora. Combined with his past achievements, Kaburaji now held the 5th spot in Suzuran's power rankings, and number 1 was Gura, number 2, Takagi number 3, the bald kid with too much attitude, number 4, the smug guy with glasses, number 5, Kaburaji himself. Gura was Suzuran's current top dog, leading the largest and most dangerous gang on campus, but in terms of raw skill and fighting prowess, the true number 1 was the legendary Jinda. So technically, Gura was king of the jungle, but Jinda was the apex predator hiding in the trees. Kenichi tried to recruit Kaburaji to team up and rule Suzuran together, but Kaburaji wasn't interested. As a kid, he'd seen his dad get beaten by thugs, and ever since, he hated violence to the core. Later that night, Kenichi took Kaburaji to a bar for some malt smoothies. But the fun didn't last. Kenichi's men got jumped and were bleeding all over the place. Some people ordered drinks, others served chaos. The scene reminded Kaburaji of his father, and he snapped. He got up and punched every single guy in sight. The local gangsters were immediately sent to orthopedic clinics. When the cops showed up, Kaburaji and a guy named Shibata ran into a back alley to hide. Turns out, Shibata was the current boss of Industrial Tech Hideout. He shared that Fujiwara, ranked 2nd in his school, had just gotten out of prison and was looking for revenge. Worse, he had joined a Yakuza group to boost his reputation, and nothing says job application like assault and battery on your resume. Fujiwara had one goal: cause chaos wherever Suzuran and Industrial Tech students met, and make both schools go to war. He wanted to destroy the power structure of both institutions everywhere he went. Trouble followed. He even had the guts to confront Gura, Suzuran's boss, on a public bus. People expected an epic showdown, but Gura kicked the bus door open and pulled a full bird escape. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the flying chicken technique. He left his crew behind to get beaten to a pulp. His cowardice made everyone question his title as Suzuran's boss. Afterward, furious and humiliated, Gura started his own revenge mission. He attacked Fujiwara's men on the streets, beating one guy to a pulp. After some interrogation, he discovered that Fujiwara and rich boy Kagami had joined forces to build a new power block. Right then, Gura got stabbed from behind. He turned around and knocked the attacker out instantly, then tossed the knife aside and stormed back to Suzuran to confront Kagami. When Kagami refused to give up Fujiwara's location, Gura pounded him until he couldn't recognize his own profile pic. A chubby guy tried to intervene. Bad idea. Gura beat him down like a drum. Turns out, fat doesn't absorb punches, it just jiggles dramatically. But as Gura turned around, Kagami sucker punched him and sent him flying. Already wounded, Gura could do nothing but lie there and take the beating. And just like that, a 10th grader took down the school's top dog. Kagami shot up the ranks like a rocket. The younger students started rioting, all wanting to be the next boss. Chaos engulfed Suzuran. Kagami seized the opportunity and claimed himself the new king. He challenged Kaburaji to a duel, but our main guy wasn't interested. "I'm not dirtying my clothes over this nonsense," he said, clean shirt over crown. Every time, sensing the tension in the air, Kenichi rushed over to mediate. But Kaburaji completely ignored him and walked off like nothing happened. Meanwhile, the nosy guy who tried to intervene got sent straight to the hospital. 50 stitches later, he probably regrets not minding his own business. Feeling guilty, Kaburaji visited him, but Kenichi, furious, decided to cut all ties, calling him a coward with no guts or loyalty. At the hospital, Kaburaji also ran into Shibata and Gura, who were both recovering from their recent beatdowns. Apparently, the streets had been in complete chaos ever since some thug fresh out of prison stirred up trouble. Shibata, being his usual hot-headed self, went alone to challenge Fujiwara one-on-one. Brave, but not exactly smart. Despite his strength, Fujiwara was no match for the college gang boss and got pummeled badly. Realizing he was losing, he pulled a dirty move, threw sand in Shibata's face, then dislocated his arm while he was blinded. Classic sore loser behavior. Kaburaji scolded Shibata afterward, telling him not to risk his life so recklessly. Having once watched his own father beaten to death without being able to stop it, Kaburaji now vowed to protect his friends at Suzuran at all costs. He refused to let history repeat itself. The next day, Kaburaji met Jinda on the rooftop. Jinda, looking half dead inside, said crows had to eat trash to survive, a poetic way of saying life sucks. Kaburaji swore he'd defeat Jinda and become the new top dog at Suzuran. Then he challenged Kagami to a final showdown, set for the next day. Meanwhile, former Yakuza boss Ken and his buddy Masa were running a car shop, trying to live a normal life. Kagami, Ken's late boss's son, was now working with Fujiwara. That night, Kagami and Fujiwara stormed into the shop, trying to take over the turf for a shady real estate project. When Ken refused, Fujiwara poured gasoline and set the place on fire. Talk about aggressive negotiations. Devastated, Ken poured gas on himself, daring Kagami to light him up. While Kagami hesitated, Fujiwara threw the lighter, burning the whole shop to ashes. With everything gone, Ken turned to Kaburaji and begged him to beat some sense into Kagami. The day of the battle arrived. News of the fight spread like wildfire. Kaburaji originally planned to go alone, but Kenichi showed up with backup. Brotherhood still means something, apparently. Even Shibata, despite his broken arm, sent his school's strongest fighter to support. Gura and his boys also came to cheer things up. Literally. On the way to the rooftop, Kaburaji was blocked by Fujiwara's crew on the field, while Kagami waited up top. The signal dropped, and all hell broke loose. Kaburaji steamrolled through the goons. Every guy who rushed him got fed a generous serving of knuckle sandwich. Gura went full-on war machine, clobbering anyone in sight. You'd think the man was made of steel. Kenichi wasn't as strong, but he was no pushover either. He took down opponents one by one like a seasoned pro from above. Kagami watched it all, then turned and threw white paint across the Suzuran wall, writing the names of past leaders. He looked determined to make history, or at least repaint it. Kaburaji made his way inside, mowing down anyone in his path. On the stairs, a hulking opponent blocked them. Kenichi told Kaburaji to go ahead, he'd handle this one. The big guy was strong, sure, but too slow. Kenichi dodged every clumsy punch until the brute was exhausted, then launched a kick that sent him flying down the stairs, KO'd. Outside, Gura faced off against Fujiwara. Gura had the upper hand, landing blow after blow until Fujiwara faked an injury, then sneak attacked with a brutal kick to Gura's manhood. That dirty move deserved a lifetime ban. Just as Gura collapsed, Shibata appeared out of nowhere and kicked Fujiwara like a flying freight train. "Tonight I'm taking your head and soaking it in liquor," he shouted. Then he tore off his cast, ready to fight with one hand. Unfortunately, even Shibata couldn't match Fujiwara one-handed. During the scuffle, his shirt tore, revealing burned scars, the result of Fujiwara's arson. Seeing those scars, Fujiwara's guilt finally kicked in. He froze, apologized, and walked away. Maybe he had half a conscience buried somewhere under that greasy hair. Meanwhile, Kaburaji reached the rooftop. The final showdown began. He came in swinging, and Kagami could barely keep up. Every hit from Kaburaji landed clean, while Kagami's punches were like being tapped with a wet napkin. Kaburaji didn't hold back. He drilled a heavy punch into Kagami's gut, then delivered a barrage of strikes that left him coughing up his pride. Even after taking a beating, Kagami got up and landed a punch on Kaburaji's face. The hit triggered a flashback. Kaburaji remembered his father's death. Determined not to be helpless again, he snapped back into focus and landed a sky-shattering uppercut that knocked Kagami out cold. Game over. In the end, Kaburaji had won. The Suzuran wall was now white, ready for a new name. But he refused to write his, because putting his name up there would only continue the cycle of violence. The gangster boss who started it all was arrested by the police. And sometime later, with his strength back, Kaburaji challenged Jinda once more. No one knows who won that fight, but maybe, just maybe, Suzuran's era of endless brawling had come to an end. If you liked the story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so I can keep bringing you more badass tales like this one.